Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Survivors of the Portage la Prairie residential school in Manitoba commemorated the 50 years since its closure earlier this week. It was the first time many of the former students saw their peers since they left the institution decades ago. Sav Jones was at the commemoration and has more.
It's been 50 years since the Portage la Prairie residential school ceased operations. From 1891 to 1975, Indigenous children from across Manitoba entered its doors on the promise of an education, but they left with trauma and a loss of their culture. Now, half a century later, several dozen survivors gathered to commemorate its closure and a new life as a museum and National Historic Site. Portage residential school survivor Jennifer Wood was grateful to be surrounded by her former peers, many she hasn't seen since leaving the school. She says it was community with fellow students that made all the difference.
There were many times in the dorms, especially the Sundays were the loneliest days here. Everyone was lonely. Everyone was in their dorm crying. And I'd always go up and talk to them and say, let's go outside, let's go for a walk.
The National Center for Truth and Reconciliation has identified 5 children who died while attending the genocidal institution. 15-year-old Bernadette Hart of Norway House Cree Nation was one of them. She is now memorialized in a plaque that will hang in its halls. Margaret Swan spoke on behalf of the Southern Chiefs organization. While she didn't attend Portage Residential School, she says she could relate as a day school survivor.
To kill the Indian in the child. That was the intent of all levels of government when they came onto Turtle Island. They wanted to kill us off, steal our lands and resources, but they couldn't do it because our ancestors were brilliant.
The morning closed off with a song by the school's former glee club and other survivors.
I will return once more.
Wood says keeping the day positive is important for healing. She hopes in another 50 years, new generations will continue commemorating the story of the Portage la Prairie residential school survivors.
I hope that we see all kinds of buildings and institutions talking about residential school. I hope that when you walk out of the airport from an airplane that you see it fully in the airport. This is the home of the residential school survivors who survived all these schools in Manitoba, and that goes straight across the country. That's what I'd like to see.
Sav Jones, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
An update now to a story from yesterday's noon newscast. Alberta RCMP say they have interviewed more than 60 people following the disappearance of 25-year-old Joshua Francis Soto. He went missing on May 5th in the Whitefish Lake First Nation and Goodfish Lake area in northeastern Alberta, weeks after he won $1 million from a lottery scratch and win. According to the RCMP, some of those interviews were polygraph tests, which did not substantiate allegations of criminal involvement in Soto's disappearance, though they haven't ruled that out. They say searches were done with dozens of officers, a cadaver dog, and a drone after Soto went missing, and that it's possible he wandered off in inappropriate clothing on a night that went down to 0 degrees. Soto's uncle told APTN National News on Thursday that on the day he went missing, Soto said some people were coming to get him, and blood was later found in the RV he was living in after he disappeared. The uncle said the family believes someone may be involved in his disappearance and asked the public to contact the RCMP with any tips. 2 of the 4 brothers that made up popular rock alternative band Constant Reminder and the driver of a second vehicle were killed in a highway collision a few kilometers west of Melfort, Saskatchewan, Thursday night. The 59-year-old male driver of the The 59-year-old male driver of the SUV involved died on scene. 31-year-old Seth Constant, who was driving the second vehicle, also died on scene. His brother, 24-year-old Renee Constant, died in hospital. Seth and Ryan are from the James Smith Cree Nation. They're founding members of their band, Constant Reminder. James Smith Cree Nation leadership says Constant Reminder celebrated the values of resilience, family, and Cree identity. They've sent condolences to family, friends, and fans and are encouraging them to reach out to support services available in the community. The crash is still under investigation. Another family member of a person who died at the Whitehorse emergency shelter suing the organization responsible for its operation. The father of Josephine Hager has launched a civil suit against nonprofit Connective and 5 unnamed staff members. The 38-year-old Selkirk First Nation citizen died at the shelter on February 1st, 2023 from a lethal combination of morphine and alcohol. A coroner's inquest last year saw video footage of Hager lying motionless on the ground with only brief checks from staff in the hours leading up to her death. A statement of claim filed on October 6th blames staff negligence for her death, or in the alternative holds Connective responsible. The suit is seeking $75,000 in damages. 2 separate lawsuits against Connective and the Yukon government involving deaths at the shelter were recently settled out of court. Ernstine Silver Fox Silla was Hager's auntie and guardian.
There needs to be change there. They need to change the workers, get people involved in there that knows their First Nation people. Because we asked for a lot of changes in that place. And the way my daughter died, I wasn't too happy at all.
None of the defendants have filed a statement of defense. A new website has been launched to help honor lost loved ones. That story and more coming up after the break. Welcome back. CanadianHealingQuilt.ca is a new website dedicated to people who lost loved ones during the COVID-19 pandemic and others grieving. It's a place to honor someone with a memorial quilt square, which can be shared publicly or privately. Julia Ross spoke to Elder Albert McLeod, who is behind the creation of the digital quilt.
And that's the thing when people die, you know, unless you go through these rituals, you come to terms with, you accept that they are gone. Mm-hmm. But unless we do that, they live somewhere in your mind, right?
Albert McLeod came up with the idea to create an online space to memorialize those who died during the COVID-19 pandemic. He says the Healing Quilt was created to honor, memorialize, comfort, and heal. The website launched with Canadian Virtual Hospice this September. McLeod says he saw the impact that the lack of end-of-life rituals such as wakes, services, and burials was having during the pandemic, just as he had seen before.
The idea of the Healing Quilt came from my experience that goes back to the AIDS pandemic from 1980 to about 2000. And in those days, there was a lot of fear and stigma about AIDS. And in those cases, many people were not remembered who had passed away during that time. And so in Canada, we created the Canadian AIDS Quilt.
Having a friend that passed in 2020 with no service held, McLeod knew there were countless others going through the same situation.
That idea came to me after COVID, where a lot of times people were not enabled to go to hospitals to be with their loved one who was quite ill from COVID or other illnesses like cancer or diabetes. So we came up with this concept of a virtual way that people can remember their loved ones who passed away.
He says that having a digital healing quilt is important for accessibility so that all grieving people can come together at any given time.
I think it is an opportunity for the Indian residential school and day school survivors to acknowledge people they knew who have since passed, as well as, the people dealing with the murder and missing Indigenous women and girls in Canada, another way that they can memorialize their loved ones or their friends or their relatives.
McLeod says that creating a square is something anyone can do at home and that the choice to share it with relatives or to create a public memorial is an option. The Healing Quilt offers ongoing healing and a lasting place for remembering and honoring. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Nice idea. An ultimate gathering for canine professionals and enthusiasts, Canine United, was held north of Montreal in Mirabel, Quebec. As Kim Sullivan reports, for one young Innu from the community of Pessamit, it was also a platform to raise awareness about the reality of dogs in Indigenous communities.
Luca Bakary was 18 years old and living at home when his mother suggested they buy a dog.
Puis je me suis dit, c'est mon premier vrai chien en tant qu'adulte. J'ai la possibilité de me mettre à 100%.
In order to truly understand how to raise a dog that would be a good member of the community, Bakary had to do a deep dive into research. Like in many Indigenous communities, the presence of stray dogs is a problem in Pessamit, an Innu community on the north shore of the St. Lawrence River. Bakary blames colonization for completely changing the ancestral role of dogs.
When you look into history, you understand better that the dog had a place, had a role. He was a protector. He was a companion. He was hunting with us and everything. We were put into communities, and then with that, the role of the dog has been lost. He had no outlets no more. He wasn't living his true animal life, his natural animal instincts. So he was put in the back on the leash, and then with time, they kind of put the dog to the side.
So 3 years later, Luca not only has a dog, a Rottweiler named Baku, he has a new vocation.
I want to bring quality information, quality service, a good service to the people, and create a strong dog community on the North Shore.
To learn more about the canine world, Luca decided to volunteer at the ultimate gathering for canine professionals and enthusiasts, Canine United. He sent an email to its organizer, François Garcia, exposing the reality of dogs in many Indigenous communities, the lack of animal care or control, of education or proper information, and the impact of colonization on the role of the dog. All things that he was hoping to help fix.
I want to be able to create a center. I want to be able to create a strong dog community, create like a place where it's controlled, where the dogs are safe, where the environment is clean, where the dogs could have their own time to develop, to build confidence or to learn structure, trying to rebuild that lost connection that we had with the dog.
Garcia's business partner and wife, Patricia Okonomo, opened the email. While reading it aloud to Garcia, they immediately knew they were dealing with a special type of individual.
And I'm like, that sounds good. I'm like, how old did you say he was? She tells me, I think he's 20 or so. And I'm like, ask him to call me. I felt I was talking to a 50-year-old wise man. Instead
of inviting him as a volunteer, Garcia offered him a booth, giving Bakary a platform to inform others of the canine issues plaguing Indigenous communities and his desire to restore the dog's ancestral role. Bakary jumped on the occasion. Within a few days, his community and council had funded his trip. Without knowing it, though, his passionate and ambitious attitude at Canine United was going to reward him even more.
You rarely come across young people that are so passionate, and I mean true passion about something, and that they truly believe in what they want to do. He's wise enough, smart enough to see the problem, but he's smart enough and wise enough to think of solutions. We've decided that we will sponsor him for $8,000 to build all his complete online platform marketing. We don't want him just to talk about it. We want him to get it going now.
An unexpected honor, one step closer to creating his dream center, Nutshimit Canine, and of becoming a canine instructor.
Sometimes you think that you're going into the wrong direction, kind of lost, but you got to still keep pushing. But sometimes you don't. You're too caught in the moment, and you can't realize that, oh, I'm lucky, that I have a voice, that I'm doing this for the people. And personally, I can't. I'm lost of words. I'm amazed.
Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Maribel.
Great story. Thanks for that, Kim. Still to come, we'll speak with the reporter behind the season premiere of APTN Investigates, airing this Saturday. Plus, we'll speak with Kim too. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And Jordan McKay shared a morning sunrise from his apartment balcony overlooking downtown Winnipeg, off in the distance. Thanks for sharing, Jordan. This weekend, you can send your pictures to share@aptn.ca and then tune in each day next week to see if you're selected to be our photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sun's out and 19 in Fredericton, 17 with the sun out in Halifax, 4 in Kuujjuaq, sunny and +3 in Nain, 19 under sunny skies in Montreal, 13 in Val-d'Or, 17 in Sault Ste. Marie, sunny and 20 for Ottawa, 13 in Thunder Bay, 11 in Kapuskasing, 17 for God's Lake, 15 in Norway House and the Paw, 18 with showers in Winnipeg, 20 in Dauphin, 23 with the sun out in Regina, 25 in Saskatoon, 17 in Meadow Lake, 14 in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, snow and 6 for Fort Chip, flurries and 10 for Fort McMurray, 10 in Edmonton, 17 in Lethbridge and Calgary, 11 in Vancouver, sunny and 12 in Kamloops, 5 in Prince George, 6 for Smithers, 0 in Old Crow, +3 in Dawson and Whitehorse, 3 in Yellowknife, +1 in Norman Wells, -2 with snow in Sax Harbor, flurries and 1 below in Pawlatuck, 3 in Chesterfield, 5 in Whale Cove, -10 in Resolute, 0 with snow in Joe Haven. You Used to Call Me Marie by Ty Amy Groman returns to Vancouver after a run at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. This epic Métis tale of love, resilience, and the rise of the Métis Nation is at the Arts Club Theatre in Vancouver before touring to venues across the Lower Mainland. Ryan Cunningham reports.
You Used to Call Me Marie by Ty Amy Groman is a multi-generational love story set during the rise of the Métis Nation.
So I wrote this play, and it's all the love stories of my family, starting in creation with Star Woman and ending with me, and it's 8 love stories intertwined about how I came here and also about the emergence of the Métis Nation in Alberta.
Me Stetson was lying beside us. There was sweet grass and tobacco growing all around.
You can't give birth in the garden.
But the stars told me to.
No, Marie,
Lily
you can't
Jean
leave
Marie
these 4
Bonin
walls. Do you
and Aaron
understand?
Oakham
There are
Mason
men
play
out
the
there who are
star-crossed
hunting.
lovers across
Bring
time.
my bow.
No.
I don't want our children stuck in the walls of this fort.
I really like the 1930s scene. It's the Great Depression, it's the drought, but our 2 characters managed to find a lot of joy and a lot of hope. And I think that's very aligned with the Métis culture. There's a lot of resilience.
Weaving music, dance, and poetry, You Used to Call Me Marie transports audiences to a different time.
You Used to Call Me Marie is a bit of an ode to the progression of names in my family. So for many generations leading up to me, all of the women were named Marie. And then at some point around my mom and dad's generation, we quit using Métis names. So You Used to Call Me Marie is an ode to the return of the name Marie.
You Used to Call Me Marie runs at the BMO Theatre in Vancouver until October 12th. You can catch it all along the Lower Mainland until November 9th. This is Ryan Cunningham with APTN National News, Vancouver.
Thanks, Ryan. Time to head over to our Montreal studio now. Kim Sullivan standing by with a look ahead to tonight's all-new Nouvelle Nationale.
Hey, another week, another edition of Nouvelle Nationale. We're going to be talking about a dangerous road, some legal procedures, a march for women, and a statute to keep the conversation going. All topics on tonight's episode. Plus, we have a beautiful story about bringing birth back to the land and how textile and fashion can also mean and redefine identity. You don't want to miss it. It's tonight, 6:30 Eastern. See you then.
Thanks, Kim. Kim will be back here in less than 4 minutes. APTN Investigates returns this week with an all-new season. In Justice for My Sister, video journalist Tamara Pimentel uncovers shocking details surrounding the death of a young Casca woman in the 1960s. Anne Mary Dick was only 18 years old when she was killed in the small community of Upper Liard, Yukon. A man confessed to the crime. A trial was held, but he was ultimately found not guilty. With more on the story, Tamara joins us now in studio. Tamara, thanks for being with us. What can you tell us about Anne Mary Dick's case?
So the family of Anne Mary actually initially reached out to our APTN News team in Whitehorse a few years ago. At that time, they didn't have any information on her case. The incident was kept very quiet in their community of Upper Liard. So our news reporter, Sarah Connors, was the one who actually got a hold of all of the court documents and handed them off to the family and to us. The documents revealed that it was RCMP who mismanaged the investigation. And it isn't just Anne Mary that this happened to. There's another woman, Tootsie Jimmy Charlie. She was killed in the 60s, and we are still waiting for answers regarding her death as well.
Are you able to tell us more about Tootsie Jimmy Charlie?
So Tootsie's story has actually been in the media quite a few times. Her body was found near a landfill in Whitehorse in 1967. RCMP publicly apologized for a flawed investigation into her death. They initially chalked it up as an accident or misadventure, but more information has now come forward. So now that investigation is reopened and it's deemed suspicious. So RCMP are now asking for the public's help to gather any information that they can.
Such old cases, what outcome are the families hoping for?
Yeah, so both families are really just looking for closure at this point. For Tootsie's children, they never had a chance to know who their mother was, and they at least want to know how she died and who was responsible for her death. And as for Anne Mary's family, they weren't given that apology from the RCMP. So that's what they're hoping for somebody to take accountability and hopefully take another look into how her investigation was handled so they can get some closure as well.
Important stories here, Tamara. Really looking forward to it. Appreciate you telling us about it.
Thanks.
And you can catch APTN Investigates Justice for My Sister tomorrow night, right here on APTN at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right after APTN National News Weekend. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Friday. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy Miigwech, thanks for being with us. Stick around. Kim's up next with your French language newscast. Have a great night.